Welcome back, Keepers of the Flame. Okay, so today I want to go through a little bit because there's along with planetary shift, there's solar things happening to the sun as well, and you can follow that like you follow the weather. Several different channels. Just look up solar flares, and whichever one vibes with you. Some of them are a little fear pornish, but they do try to give you some ways to navigate these waters. It's a little unprecedented at the moment, but again, we haven't been keeping track of this stuff for very long, and if we have, we've been complete morons and destroyed the evidence in the past. So with that being said, I don't think this is like some sort of weird, what do they call that? What people refer to as the apocalypse. It's just an unveiling. So, me particularly, I'm not too scared of anything. Like, I've come to the understanding that even though this physical body might or will eventually pass away, the whatever source is inside of me will live on, and this is just a learning process, a growing process. So remembering that we're trying to handle this with grace and gratitude for our spirit soul evolution, if you will. That being said, so the things that are happening to us are on a cosmic level, but also on a cellular level. So we're forgetting that kind of intermingling. We're again, too many people are giving away their power, or too many people are conning you into giving away your power. To some Scarface Sky Daddy, like, okay, that's just a construct that humans make because they do not do the inner work. I cannot stress that enough. Anytime somebody's talking about some Scarface Sky Daddy, it does not matter. If we're giving all our power to the sun, which, wow, I mean, if we were to be dependent on any actual thing, it would probably be that, really. But at the same time, understanding that we are just flesh prisons, okay, keeping a soul tied down, okay, 1 foot nailed down, to quote Maynard. So that being said, it's also in our genetic code. That thing that the Nazi white coats want us to believe is just 90% junk DNA is not. We're encoded with a crap ton of information that we're just denied access to from the get-go, and we have to do our human homework and find it. What do you think is in there? Things like we know the meaning and the medicinal value of flowers. We know plants, herbs, and whatever else. We know gemstones. We know how to do spiritual work. Instinctively, how to do it. We just have to shut the rest of the world up for a hot second and sit with ourselves. We instinctively know how to do these things, but we're denied these instincts right away from the get-go. They're robbed from us, okay? So we have to spend the rest of our lives trying to get back to a place where they can exist in this reality, which can be extremely difficult if you are playing games. Okay, so that brings us down to the reality level of it, right? There's the cosmos level of things that are rotating and happening for an evolutionary process. That's the main goal and function of spinning, rotating, and ever evolving, okay? So then we come down to this reality where I don't want to call it a matrix anymore because it means womb. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the onslaught on women and children in general is astronomical. So, hence why we have an army. But what we're starting to, how can we put that in the physical? Okay, so AI, some lady, you can look it up, some artist who works mainly with modern technology, like not like with paints and pencils and crayons and whatever else. But she works on a computer and a software system. So when this AI art came out, she prompted it to do several different things. I think the first thing she did was like Marlon Brando -1, which means the opposite of Marlon Brando. I don't get it myself. I'm just relaying. It's fascinating. Don't get me wrong. It's totally fascinating, but I understand nothing. So, when she did that, it came up with this like abstract landscape of a random city that I'm not sure if it had a name or not, if it was an actual place or if it wasn't. I do not recall. It was a city abstract landscape. And when she took that and put -1 to that, expecting to get something similar like Marlon Brando, she got this woman. And she was not in very good shape. And she kept, sifting through what the algorithm was feeding her, what AI was giving her. I would stick to videos on YouTube. So if you want an understanding of what our humanity reflection in a mirror looks like, our reflection, what we've been feeding into this vast array of little feelers, tentacles, if you want, this is our reflection. Can't imagine how we got where we are right now. Can't imagine how that happened. We could be, in a different space right now, but we're not. We made really bad choices, and here's the consequences. Okay? So instead of being like, dang it, kids, just be like, okay, now we know. Now we can choose better. Sorry. I'm being weird. So now we know that we need to go back to the drawing board all the way the F back. The problem is that drawing board has now completely shifted. And that's going to bring us to the cellular level of what's happening. So in our genetic code, right, okay. Back it up, Sarah. So outside in the light, right, in the light, that would be the light, right? But inside is the dark, the yin, the unknown, the unseeable. It's not unseeable. I have an anatomy. I have a plethora of anatomy books that can tell you what it looks like on the inside. So on the inside, in our genetic code, there's a distinct thing happening right now. And I'm not the only one who's picked up on this, but this has been scientifically, I wouldn't say known to the public, but it's been available to the public for quite some time. I would venture to say probably known a year. I don't know how long it takes to get crap rolling. But when they decided that it was in our best interest to start funding trying to raise fetuses in sacks instead of wombs, because we can still say that, that's when they noticed the genetic code within the human body was shifting. So what does that look like in real life? There's a man that likes to yell and scream and throw paperwork, and I'm pretty sure you know his name. He gets really irate, red in the face, sells supplements, knows another dude who interviews people, I'm not, you can't freaking make me, I'm not saying his name. So that particular person, if you don't know who I'm talking about, can I come live under the rock with you? So that person did an episode where he, of course, got reasonably upset that there was frog DNA in his water supply. Here's the fly in the serum. Big Bad Brother didn't put it there. His own wee did. Okay? We are reverting back to frog and chicken DNA. Why is that? Because the Y chromosome is shriveling up and going extinct. Okay? So that in and of itself, right there, you need to get off the LBGT community's butt. They are trying to navigate the future. Back off. Okay. That being said, we are not there yet. And so if somebody still has genitalia, you need to honor that. You need to honor like the history of where people are coming from. Now, that brings me to the point of this war between the sexes, I guess, if you will, or what looks like. I don't even know how to label that. So again, reverting back, if you're picking on a team, you're on the wrong team. You're automatically on the wrong team if you're picking teams. You have been conned out of your personal sovereignty if you're on a team. If you're a spokesperson or speaking to or speaking for or speaking up for, blah, 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 you are now picking teams, okay? You can source history. Heck yeah, source it. Get the stats, get the facts, get the data. Yep, absolutely. But you don't say, well, because of that, I'm going to join this team and like fight with the opposite side. That doesn't make any sense. That's not bringing us to anything but what is going to make us weaker, which is division. Okay. So again, not a fembot and not a, what do they call that then? Magto? Something. The dudes on the other side. So again, that's creating a separation where you're not going to have any growth pattern. You're going to stay stagnant. And worse, you're going to get ignorant and keep going in that direction. And that's going to... I dare say natural selection. That could be, I guess, like natural selection. Right. And maybe we do just need this time to like be alone. I know I've tried. It's not like I've always been like alone. But yeah, I enjoy my peace and my alone time and my sovereignty and my, yeah, it's lovely. It really is. It's freaking fucking tabulous. So that could be an aspect to it, but I don't feel the need to hate dudes. I mean, I'll look at you sideways if you start toting some weird narrative, but I do that to women too. Don't get me wrong, I've laughed at some, what's her face? Drew's videos making fun of men who make fun of women for having body hair or like, you know, being human. That part, that's hilarious to me because I'm like, dude, if you're going to pick somebody apart based on their exterior, you realize we all get old, right? Like, nobody's found the fountain of youth. They'll try to sell it to you. Oh, yeah. They'll get in your bank account right quick if you're going to fall for that. But we don't have the fountain of youth. And who wants to live forever? I mean, unless you got $1 zillion in a private island. And even then, you get bored. You know? Upgrade and move on. But anyway, so like, I get it. I'm not saying it's wrong. And again, I can see where both sides are coming from because there's a huge, massive shift right now. But let me break that down for you. So for those of you who didn't know, we're in World War III. So we're in World War III. So our genetics as females is kicking in and going, hey, I remember that. Oh, yeah. I was stuck raising like 10 kids while hubby went off to war, and I was left completely defenseless, foodless, and almost homeless because hubby was off in the war. And then when he didn't come back, I was completely fucked. So yeah, we've been through this. As far as history goes, we've been through this several different times. That's been documented, and I'd venture to say significant amount more than has been documented. Okay, so our genetics are pretty stone on point when it comes to like, okay, war mode, famine mode. And so we've come to the point where we're like, yeah, I don't want to have any kids right now. That's a bad idea. Like, if we, now granted, I'm not sure how this is going to play out, if there's going to be actual boots on the ground. If not, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Our genetics are still like in that direction. You know what I mean? So when you have that running through your system of like, okay, here we are, the grocery store shelves are getting bare, or have been bare. You know, all these people are starting wars and arguments and whatever else, and blah, 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 the whole world, and blah, 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 Rona, blah, 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 you know, all that, you know. So, and yes, I do know this started before that. Excuse me again. Excuse me while I just chug my coffee. So we have this premise, right, of we can see it coming. We already know. I'd venture to say the big bad September 11th probably set some things off. Not right away immediately, but it shifted everybody. It shifted the mindset. It shifted the understanding. It shifted the thought process. And it shifted exactly a tick of like, okay, let's slow down on that. Let's just not. So for some, they went that direction. For others, they went, you know, the other direction, which is let's have like 8,000 kids. So that being said, the people who instinctively had this pattern running through their system, I don't know about past lives. I can't testify to that, because everybody is different. I don't think that everybody on the planet has been here before. I don't know for sure. I'm not speaking for everybody on that. So when we're coming to this genetic tipping point of like, hey, either we need to survive after 9/11 and have babies, or we need to slow down because significant other might go off to war, whatever it is, we're starting that from that premise. We're operating off of that yin subconscious not seen level. And so since we are in the middle of World War III, that division is getting larger and 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 larger, where the guys are like, what the heck? And the women are like, but I know I can handle myself. I don't know if I can handle the children with no, because, you know, the typical, not always, definitely not always, is that, you know, the woman typically gets, you know, the brunt of handling the children. With, you know, for support. Because we shame the person and then we're like, wait, I need to go. We are not tribal creatures any longer. I know we like to think we are. We are not tribal. We can barely stand to get a community together. And if your community involves children, it's very, very single. If you take a trip to the city It's very, very singlehood, no kids. Even weddings. Look at weddings. There's like so many like, no kids at the wedding. Okay, so that gives you the whole lobe vibe, right? The like, type of thing. And that's fine. It's your day. You do whatever the hell you want. But that's the same mindset, though. So, and I don't know how we got there. That's how we keep ourselves going. And maybe we don't want to keep ourselves going. So when it comes down to understanding this moving forward with a vast separation, how do we operate in that space? How do we conduct ourselves in that vast canyon between blah, 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 blah? You keep going with your authentic self, and you will eventually gather people that are on that same pathway to authenticity. Then you have to understand that the people that are nicely now, the people that are asking you to go on one side of the canyon or the other. Now, this could be anything. My political party is sexier, and here's the proof. Please join my color for political party. Or, my Scarface guy daddy is the holiest, so you need to join my crowd. Things like that. Feel bad for me because the opposite sex or the same sex finds me unsuitable for dating. Ugh. Okay. Do you see how, so when you're being asked to join something, remembering that a lot of times there's rules, codes, and conducts that might not resonate with you. And if they don't resonate with you, and if you can't be in that group club thing because they don't resonate with you, you best not be in that group club or thing, because then you're going to start going against yourself. And that's the ultimate no-no, right? That's how we got here in the first place, is everybody is just being like, okay, whatever Scarface Guy Daddy says, we guess we're doing. Like, no matter what. And then, even though we might not be involved in doing the poo-poo things that Scarface Guy Daddy told other people to do, we're still uplifting those acts with our vital life force energy because we've given it over to the Scarface Guy Daddy. So we really need to take ourselves into account as a whole person. You don't get to sign up for some cult or whatever and say, well, they might be, sectioning off into this thing that I don't agree with, but I'm still going to keep this thing going. So this is where we keep, instead of saying, you know what, let's stop this whole thing and rethink. It's a doubling down. It's a continuing of doubling down, which is how we got here in the first place. Instead of saying, you know what, maybe outsourcing our power, our personal sovereignty, our responsibility, maybe instead of outsourcing that, we take it back and just, take these rules and codes of conduct as something to live by, rather than we have to hate everybody else who's not in our cult. Okay, that's not conducive to living on a healthy plane of existence, period, the end. It's just not. It's not healthy. And even though you might not subscribe to that, even though you are involved in a cult, you'd be like, no, I can be friends with everybody. Can you? Can you really? Can you? Can you bring those people home to your family? Can you even admit to your family? Can you be yourself around your family? Can you dress how you want in front of your family? Can you tell your family your interests? Because for years I had to hide mine. I had everything about me. I had nothing. I was like a little teeny tiny blob within myself that was like just waiting, just sitting there waiting, going, okay, any day now we can be ourselves, right? And I was like, no, we can't. Do you see what shit's, do you see how this is going out here? We can't do anything. Yeah. So, again, if you need that kind of suppression because that's where you feel the most comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a necessity and a need to, how do you put this? Splice yourself when it comes to who you are as a person because of the groups you're involved with. And this goes for science and things like that too. A lot of times people come across these things that are not okay within research and whatever else, and they have to completely bypass it and ignore it and look the other way. They have to ignore the outcome that they have to see on a daily basis for prescribing medications. They have to ignore that completely, suppress it, deny it, whatever else, blame it on something else. So it's not just a regali thing. It's a massive energy on the planet that just keeps deny, double down. And so if we can just let people be who they need to be without forcing things on them or saying, hey, if you want to be spiritual in any way, you have to do this. And it's subscribed to this particular group or cult or whatever you want to call it. Versus the scientific community where they're like, if you want to practice this, if you want to be this way in life, if you want to produce some sort of whatever, you have to do this, and this. And you will be entrained and indoctrinated exactly how to do that thing. And if you don't do that thing, how we tell you how to do that thing, we need your license back. Instead of following the evidence, we're just gonna So that's where we're kind of separating on that front too, is the medicinal aspect of things that have been long, not too long, I suppose. Was it 30s, late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s? Petroleum products really started to take over. So going with your gut instincts and your intuition and learning how to tap into that stuff rather than getting pressure from the outside. Because again, you're setting yourself up to go against yourself once you have confined yourself to that space, to that either that institution or the binding spell or whatever. So when these planetary movements are coming in, that's going to bring your nose to that grinding stone, and it's going to be a challenge. The other thing too is a lot of people are going through bodily things right now because of Saturn's movement and the solar flares. So again, getting back to your breathing correctly, all the way down to the diaphragm. Yoga. And remembering that even though you might be going through a difficult time, there's nothing wrong with you. This isn't a punishment. This is your opportunity to start waking up and really do the self-care. Actually love yourself enough to care for yourself, to get through this and move past it and learn from it. It's not a Scarface Sky Daddy like whipping you. It is a, hey, you've been neglecting this. Can we please pay attention to it now? Please? Please, can we pay attention to it now? Please. That's all your body's telling you or asking you, begging you, whatever it is. Can we please pay attention to this? Can we please find a different way through this? And of course you can. There's plenty of people out there that can help you do it. Okay? So, I hope that breaks it down on a understandable level. And again, the food thing, the medicinal thing, and then the dividing and conquering people. You see that not just with religion and sex, though. You see that with race, especially. Class is the biggest one, though. That's the real war, is the war of the class. They do a really good job at keeping us divided. And so when we get into those petty things and we start really weird wars and really whatever it is, people just need to be allowed to have their own evolution, and that's fine. But while you're going through the internal turmoil, instead of sitting with it and understanding it and going inside with it, people start screaming at the thing that they think is hurting them when it's actually themselves. They just need to sit with themselves long enough to be like, okay, I need to do some self-development here. I need to figure out who I really am. I need to remember who I am. I need to be able to become who I need to be. And that does not involve forcing anything on anybody else. Period. The end. That does not involve demanding people be this way, that way, the other thing. Okay? If people don't act how you prefer them to act when they're around you, step away. That's all you got to do. You don't need to start screaming at them that they need to be this way, that way, and the other way. It's toodle on. You'll find something that fits eventually. I pinky freaking swear. Just, okay? So this on the outside just needs to get this on the inside, and then it just dissipates. It just goes away. It doesn't hang out and stick around and ask you to put your dukes up. It tells you, okay, we've dealt with that now. We can move on. Okay? Just like the religion thing. If you feel like you're having a war of holy sorts inside of you, that's just an ask to say, hey, how do we really feel about this? How are we going to handle this energy, frequency, and vibration? That's it. That's all. Just asking you to heal. It's just an invitation. Exactly what it is. Pain is just a call for attention. That's it. That's all. So if we can start sitting with that, understanding it, meditating on it, and asking it why it showed up in the first place, we can come to a deeper understanding of it and integrate those parts in ourselves that need that healing, and then we can move on. And this is going to continuously happen through your entire life. It's not just a one and done. It's a continuum, okay? I love you. Keep going and keep your flame.